Good morning. My name is Asha Aiello. I'm the WorkReady program director for WorkReady at the Chamber. We're here today with Adrienne Carlson of BenchMark Physical Therapy Gresham to share with us her work as a physical therapist. We're going to talk a little bit about the traits and attributes of what make you successful in this field. Healthcare overall, I think, has been very challenging for a lot of reasons this year, but I know Adrienne and her team have been able to persist, and she'll tell you a little bit about that. And then we have a really cool video that she and one of her physical therapists put together about kind of a day in the life of a PT, and definitely made me realize that I need to get back on the workout train because I was actually missing some of those kettlebell things that you did. So a little bit about Adrienne and her background. And of course, I would shut down that website that I needed. Always the way it goes. I was like, oh, I've got that. No problem. Yeah. We're fine.
I can say it too if you need.
Oh, it's okay. So Adrienne's really uniquely certified to serve a niche community, as well as general health issues. She received her Doctor of Physical Therapy from Eastern Washington University, her Master of Science in Performance and Exercise Psychology from University of Montana. Kind of jealous, I love Montana. And her Bachelor of Exercise Science from University of Minnesota Duluth. She is an advanced training specialist specializing in pelvic floor dysfunction. Adrienne, can you tell me a little bit about how you got started, or what interested you in physical therapy, and why you decided to do this for a living?
Sure. I've always been interested in sports and athletics. So as a young person, I was always very athletic and played multiple sports and also had multiple injuries. So I think the beginning probably started seeing a physical therapist for my injuries and just seeing how they were able to relate everything with the body, and then studying myself, finding out about anatomy and how the body actually moves. I just became enthralled with it and really interested in it. So I would say it took me a while to figure out that I wanted to do physical therapy. So obviously I was always into exercise as I did my bachelor's in exercise science, and then decided to pursue more sports psychology. So looking at the mental aspect of healing and the mental aspect of elite sports. But during that time, I volunteered at a physical therapy clinic and just fell in love with treatment of patients. And actually, my goal with physical therapy now and my goal with my career is to make more people athletic and be able to lead a healthier, active lifestyle. So that's kind of my career path and kind of how I got involved with physical therapy.
I was not athletic. Well, let's rephrase this. I have done like dance and all kinds of stuff all my life. I wouldn't say that I'm particularly athletic, but I definitely can say that the being healthy, being active has made a big difference. I started hunting about 10 years ago, and I really got in shape to hunt about 7 years ago. And so all of a sudden, a lot of the adaptive moves that I saw you guys doing in the video actually are ones that my gym uses, because they call it full functional fitness. Mm-hmm. And it's stuff that I'm out crawling around. I've had to crawl under trees or like up things or down things, and I had to scale this like really short vertical rock. And I was shocked that a lot of the things I did at the gym, that my particular gym, or the exercises that you were showing, are everyday exercises that you don't think about for balance and proprioception and stuff like that. So it really does make a huge difference. And I think sometimes people forget, physical therapy isn't just about the recovery of your muscles, it's recovery of your whole system and getting, to get you to the next level. So, well, that's really exciting. I think you guys had put together a great video. So I'm going to go ahead and share that now.
Sure.
I did this just a few minutes ago and I managed to do it right. So let's see if I can do it right again.
Yeah, and the great thing with physical therapy and getting into physical therapy is you don't have to be athletic and you don't have to be involved in sports. There's so much more you can do. Just like you said, with daily activities and hunting and anything you enjoy.
Yeah, I need to double check really quick. I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to do that one more time because I want to make sure. Oh, good. I did click the share sound. There we go. I did that once for an AM and I was so proud of myself because I shared it, but I didn't click the share sound. So we have like 30 seconds of just silence. All right, so this is BenchMark Physical Therapy in Gresham, Oregon, BenchMark PT Gresham. And they did a great about 2.5-minute video on a day in the life of exercise prescription. And they show you some exercises and it's just a great video. So we'll go ahead and play that now.
Shoulder stability. I want you to do some lunges while you carry this kettlebell overhead, trying to keep your shoulder stable. Let's try it. Looks great. How's it feel?
Good.
Excellent.
Good. So then this one also is a great core stabilizer. So we're working on core, glutes, and also good scapular retraction here. Good. Feel good?
Feels great.
How hard are you working?
Maybe like 5 out of 10.
Okay. So next we're going to do a thoracic manipulation. So go ahead and straighten your legs. Bring your arms across your chest. Go. And then we're just going to roll towards me. Good. And then coming back. Good. For returning back to sport, so we can check jumping position.
How'd it look?
Perfect.
1,
And then you can add it back to it.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Good.
So now we're going to do some tests to check out your ACL and your PCL. So I'm going to sit on your foot here. And that all feels pretty good and stable. Let's check it for good measure here. Good news, your ACL is still there.
Awesome. So I still have to chuckle. Definitely was, stop sharing. Oh, those rear elevated leg lifts. My hamstrings and quads were crying just looking at them. I did a circuit one time at the gym and they ended with those where the I pretty much, I went to sit down and sat down, in my car, got out of my car and looked like a brand new foal. It was just trying to walk into my house. It was wild. So we've talked about how you got into your career path and what got you motivated. So what motivates you about your field and your industry?
Yeah, I think the biggest motivation is that it's never dull. There's always, you always have to be on your toes and always thinking, and there's always challenges. So it's never the same thing every single day, which makes it very exciting. And you can never say that physical therapy is boring as a job. The other thing that I think is great is I don't have to spend a lot of time on the computer. So most of my day is working with patients and treating them. There's still quite a bit of documentation to do on the computer, but most of it is staying pretty active. And there's always research. I love research and finding new ways for treatment protocols or new things that are always being found out about the body. So you can always stay really informed. And I think those are the biggest things that keep me motivated. The other positive thing about physical therapy too, is if you do find yourself getting bored in a position or just you can't motivate yourself in the position you're in, there's so many different avenues within physical therapy that you can take. So different facilities you can work at or work with different areas or work with athletes or work with pediatrics. So there's so many different avenues within physical therapy you can do too.
So that leads me to it's a great segue. It leads me to my next question. What kind of so very basically, what kind of education do you need to get into your field? And then so if I was interested in working with athletes, or I was working with athletes, but then I thought, I'd really like to shift my focus and go to pediatrics. Does that require additional levels of education or certification. So if you're in high school right now and you're looking at maybe doing something health related or even in middle school, what kind of education, where do you go from high school?
Yeah. So to getting into physical therapy school, you just need a bachelor's degree. So if you know you're going to go into physical therapy, there's some schools that do a pre-physical therapy bachelor's degree. But otherwise, anything like exercise science, kinesiology, physics, even anything along those lines will help you get into physical therapy school. And then you, of course, have prereqs that you have to take in undergrad to apply for physical therapy school. So anatomy, chemistry, physics, biology, those are kind of the big ones. But within my class, I had students who had a Spanish major or psychology major is common. So you don't have to be in the route right away, like pre-physical therapy route. You can take something you really enjoy, and it, like especially Spanish, having a Spanish major makes a big difference for physical therapy with treatment of patients. So you can take that route. And then once you have your bachelor's, it's an application process into physical therapy school. So right now, most physical therapy schools have a doctorate program. So you don't have to get your master's, you can go right into a doctorate program. But you do have to have so many volunteer and observation hours in a variety of different fields before applying to school. And then it's a big interview process to get into physical therapy school. And then once you're in, it's a 3-year doctorate physical therapy program. And then afterwards, so usually during your physical therapy program, you kind of we do multiple internships, and you have internships in a variety of different settings. So that could be where you experience pediatric or pelvic floor dysfunction, or you can go into hospital, nursing facility, and try different avenues, and then kind of have a good idea of what area you want to go into. And then after you graduate, you do continuing education constantly. So you have to have so many continuing education courses. So if you're in one aspect of physical therapy and decide you want to switch and do something else, usually what you can do is find a job in the area you want to go, and they'll help pay for your continuing education to get you into that next realm too.
That's really exciting. But we'll just take a couple steps back. When you said before you get into physical therapy school, you do your interviews, but then they require so many volunteer and observation hours. Is that with physical therapists? Is that with any type of therapist? No, that's okay. It's interesting because I was able to, before HIPAA got crazy, when I was younger and exploring physical therapy, exploring exercise science fields, I was able to do some very limited I had my own physical therapy, had knee surgeries, and then I went back to that therapist and did some observation and volunteer. I don't know that you would be able to do the same thing, not only re-COVID, but also with HIPAA these days. So talk to me a little bit about where you would volunteer and observe.
So you have to have so many volunteer hours in a variety of settings. So you do have to have it in an outpatient clinic or a hospital or nursing rehab. So with HIPAA, so we still we'll take high school students for observation hours here. And with HIPAA, you just have to sign a HIPAA release, just saying that you're not going to discuss the care and the clients and patients that you see while you're observing. And then right now with COVID, we're still having some students. Like right now I have two students observing off and on. So we're still seeing students. It's just harder because you have to stay 6 feet away. Sometimes before we would have, like if we have multiple students interested in physical therapy and wanting to observe, they could do it together. But we're not doing that anymore. But right now, we're finding if you're masked up, you wash your hands, you stay 6 feet away, there's no risk, like we're okay. So we're still trying, because just because COVID happens doesn't mean that everything has to stop in our lives, and we're still going to be graduating and need to get into school. So we still have to get those hours in. Mm-hmm.
Oh, and I know for myself, I mean, now that they've picked back up for the most part on, non-essential surgeries, I guess I could say, and I don't mean that in a degrading manner. I mean that, if it wasn't immediately life-saving, now that we've caught back up on, I can go have shoulder surgery or knee surgery or whatever. Mm-hmm. That doesn't stop the need for rehab, right? That doesn't stop the need to be a functional human, right? Or go back to work or any other sort of therapy. So I'm glad that you were able to make the switch in a safe and secure manner for your own life, really for yourself as well. I mean,
and because we are essential providers, so we never closed even at the beginning, because everybody, like you said, surgeries still happen and people need to have rehab. Plus right now during COVID, a lot of people are struggling staying active, and there's a lot of injuries happening just from being at home more. So we're still very busy.
I know my chiropractor has done some mobility videos and just stretching videos and stuff, because people don't think about how important it is to just get up and move every 10 minutes. And I find at home, I'm much more likely to get up and walk around or go get a glass of water or whatever than at work if I'm just pounding on through. So, you know, mid back, upper back, all the things get pretty tight. So
Yes,
it's
yes,
all
they
essential.
do.
So what options are there to get started? So, you know, again, you've been great to share the educational side.
Mhm.
If you were maybe middle school, or high school student, I need another cup of coffee. You know, what would you do to get started if you were interested in the field before PT school, before college, like just to kind of feel things out?
Observation. I think that's the biggest thing. Like I said, and this is how it usually happens, is you have an injury and you go to a physical therapy clinic, and that's how you get your hours. And so you could definitely go in and say, I have some back pain from sitting too much, and you can check out physical therapy. But observation is the best. So like if you are near, like you see an outpatient clinic in your neighborhood, or like right now, I know hospitals and nursing facilities are not taking students. But like outpatient clinics are. And so you could just reach out to them and just say, you're interested in physical therapy, you want to see what it's about, can you observe? And almost, most physical therapists are pretty good about it and want to get more and more kids involved with physical therapy. So that's probably the best. And I think you give my information, like you can always reach out to me or send me an email if you're interested in it, and I can tell you more about physical therapy. But I think that's the best way, is observing, because you're not going to know if you like it or not until you actually see it firsthand and what we do.
That's very, very true. I thought I wanted to be a doctor, and I went down to a 2-week seminar in Houston, and I was fascinated with the surgeries, and I was fascinated with a lot of things. And I found out I could not intubate somebody if I had to, if I became a doctor. And that was pretty much the end of my medical career at 16.
Yeah.
So it's very fascinating when you're able to really up close observe and ask questions, I think, too, of would someone such as yourself, for other physical therapists, you know, with the time that we're in now, whether you're doing that virtually like we're doing it on Zoom, I mean, the willingness to ask questions, I'm guessing too, or even an informational interview over a phone might be helpful.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it's, you know, physical therapy and becoming a doctor too, it's a lot of schooling. And so you want to make sure that if you're going to get into it, you know, you're going to enjoy it. Like that's a pathway that you want to take.
Very, very much. Like I said, I had zero problems with the surgeries, zero problems with pretty much everything else. And that intubation step, I was like, well, nope, I will see myself out.
Yeah.
What skills and attributes make students successful in the field? And I like to qualify that by saying we've talked about education, you've talked about, you know, the willingness of physical therapists, which is lovely to be able to let them observe. But if you're a high school student or middle school student, you know, if you're an introvert, if you're someone who prefers to be alone, is that something that will work? Or, you know, what skills do you have to like math? I know when I was at Oregon State and I was looking for a internship to finish my career there, I almost got an internship in the physics lab doing a jump test, observing and recording results for jump tests of youth, talking about bones. The whole study was doing bone structure over the case of like 10 years. You know, would jumping, playing, moving be beneficial? You know, how beneficial is that to growing bones? I am not good at physics. And so I ended up doing something different with a nonprofit, still within my field. That wouldn't have been a good match. For someone that was interested in that particular area, they're going to still have to know basic physics. So, you know, math, et cetera. What skills and attributes make people successful in your field?
Physics, physiology is a big one. So, but it doesn't have to be that you're either good or bad at it. It's just some people have to study more and other people don't. I think like personality wise, introvert, extrovert, it doesn't matter. I'm an introvert and I do really well. And I think with why it works is because it's a lot of one-on-one. Like maybe you have 2 patients at once, but it's still a lot of one-on-one time, which is much easier for me rather than speaking in front of a lot of people or big crowds. But I think the biggest thing is you have to be passionate and you have to be good at active listening. And you have to be motivated because physical therapy is always changing and you have to stay on top of research to be a good physical therapist. So you have to be motivated to always be learning and not just go through school and then you can just work. You have to keep learning as you're working. And then you have to be a good active listener to listen to your patients. Like patients will improve. Like you might not be the best physical therapist, but if you're an active listener, it will help get that person better and they'll appreciate it so much more. And then you have to be passionate with what you're doing. Like I think those are the big things that help you in physical therapy. And then again, even if maybe you're not as great at active listening or you're passionate about physical therapy, but you don't enjoy working with people as much, you can still be a physical therapist, like teaching, and there's so many other avenues you can take. Research. So I have friends who found out that they are not great with working with others. And so they're in research and they do awesome. And they get us like the information that we need to help treat patients. So that's kind of what I think works. But yeah, to get into with physical therapy, it is a lot of physics and it's a lot of physiology. So learning like how the body moves and the internal workings of the body too.
So if you don't mind, because we hear the term a lot, but not everybody always gets it. What is active listening? What does that mean as a physical therapist?
Yeah. So you can listen and somebody can be talking to you and listening, but your mind is thinking about other things. So you're not really listening to what they say. So like active listening is you're listening to them and they're the person that's what you're thinking about. Like you're just thinking about what they're telling you. And then the biggest thing is not interrupting them, like letting them talk about it. And then also kind of being able to keep them going along those lines. So asking appropriate questions, where if they say, I'm struggling with walking, instead of just bypassing it, you say, I hear that you're struggling with walking. And then it just gets people talking more and more. So that's kind of more active listening.
I would imagine that's, I know in my own healthcare scenarios, that active listening has led to figuring out the root cause of something versus treating a symptom, because what you're really trying to do is treat the root cause of whatever brought the patient in, correct? I mean, I might be having back issues from sitting too much. Well, part of that is, well, maybe I'm not getting a walk in every day or a workout, so I'm tight. There's root issues, right? So being able to not just treat like, well, my shoulder hurts, let's do this, instead of being like, well, why does your shoulder hurt? So
yeah, that's huge. Yep.
That's very key, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yes. Yep.
And you've talked a little bit about options in the fit. Can you expand a little more? So what other things, if you're a physical therapist and you're interested, you can do lots of things, I'm hearing, with people. What about not with people? Like for instance, the research, or what other things, if you're like, you know what, I really do like the idea of being a physical therapist, but gosh darn it, I just don't like people very much, which is what other options are out there?
Well, research is the biggest one with physical therapy. So then becoming a professor and doing research. There's also physical therapists that will go into sales. So marketing and sales for different physical therapy equipment is a big one too. We have in our organization, we have physical therapists that end up becoming more dealing with billing issues and insurance issues. So they know the aspect of like physical therapy and what we do and our goals, but then they deal with the insurance companies to make sure visits are covered. And if they have to write anything to insurance companies, that's what they do because they already have a background in physical therapy. We have others that work in it's called a care engagement. So work on motivation for therapists and motivation for patients. So that's what they do. Even though they're a physical therapist, they're not having to work with patients, but they're working on that motivation aspect for everybody else. And then also you can get into management. So management with physical therapy clinics, anything along those lines too.
So excuse me very much, looking back, what would be your top 2 pieces of advice for someone that was like, hey, this is cool. I've made a couple calls, or my teacher has made a couple calls for me to go observe. What would be the best 2 pieces of advice for getting involved in this industry?
Yeah, I think the one thing is everything you learn, try it on yourself. So especially with, like, obviously some things you can't try on yourself, but like a lot of the exercises, or if you're learning new techniques, trying it out on yourself or on a friend or a partner, that would be the biggest thing, is trying it out on yourself. And then leading an active lifestyle too, because you're teaching, a lot of times as a therapist, you're teaching people how to lead an active lifestyle. And we even talk about like better eating habits. And if you are not following that or don't know as much, you changing your lifestyle makes a big difference too, so that you can better educate somebody else.
That I would think would speak to trust between you and them, right? There has to be a level of trust between yourself and your patient. And if they can't trust not only what you say, but that you're not, it's do as I say, not what I do.
Yeah.
There's a level of integrity there that I think is important. And, you know, frankly, I chose one of my healthcare providers because he and I were involved in, for a while, neither of us do anymore, but both of us had done CrossFit, and I needed him to understand the type of injury I was dealing with.
Right.
Which led to me not doing CrossFit anymore as much as I liked it. But I didn't need to be raising heavy weight over my head. And so there was a trust there that was established because he led the same sort of lifestyle I did. So that's not something I'd ever thought about, but I think really key in a lot of ways.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Is there anything else that you would like to share before we close this down?
Yeah, I just, like we've talked about, if anybody's interested in or have more questions, feel free to email me or reach out to me. But physical therapy is a great field. There's the schooling is a little bit longer. It's not as long as MD, like as going into become a doctor, but it's very rewarding. And there's so many different avenues within physical therapy that it's just a wonderful field. And right now too, it's not difficult to find work after getting a degree either, because I know that's always a big thing, but healthcare is always going to be up and coming and a needed area. And so physical therapy is a great field that way too.
Terrific. Adrienne, thank you so much again. Thank you. And thanks to the people involved in making your video, especially for jumping off a bench.
Yeah.
So please thank them for us on our behalf. We really appreciate it. This will be posted in the next day or two with Adrienne's information on the Gresham Chamber.org website. You are a chamber member. Thank you for that as well. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your week and great holiday season.
Thank you very much. Thanks for doing this. Yep. Bye.